Now, though, we are helping you to take the right steps to avoid rogue locksmiths after reports shot up by 25% in 2024. That's according to new figures from the Master Locksmiths Association.
Yeah, we take a look back at when presenter Riyadh Khalif investigated how these fraudsters operate and ways to get back into your home if you are locked out.
1 minute, everything's just right with the world. But then you get to your front door only to find
no keys. But luckily I always have a spare set with some neighbours, so I'm never locked outside for too long. And when I do have my keys, they've always worked. But one day, I'm bound to be stuck outside and in need of a locksmith.
which is exactly what happened to Londoner Dominic Dunford. He was left stranded on his doorstep when his key snapped in the lock.
How did we get to this point where we're sitting in front of a broken key and a broken lock?
I put the key in the lock, and unfortunately the key broke in two. I had the two small bits.
Oh yeah, that is properly sheared in two, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like many of us in a moment of crisis, Dominic searched online for an answer, and he found an emergency locksmith who was soon at his door.
He was able to get the little piece out with some tweezers. He then immediately said, oh, it'll be £189 to drill the lock, and I didn't know anything about locks.
Is this the part of the bit he drilled?
That's the bit that he drilled, yeah, and you can see obviously the metal that he's kind of pulled out.
But with the old lock destroyed by the drill, the locksmith said he'd fit a new one straight away.
Eventually he called me through, he said he'd finished, and I said, okay, how much is that? And he just said £981. What? And I thought, oh, you're joking. I just suddenly froze.
For
I was
what?
like, he means it. I just felt suddenly something was going horribly, horribly wrong.
And under pressure, Dominic eventually paid £800 on his credit card.
Why didn't you resist? Why did you pay?
In hindsight, I was like a rabbit in the headlights. I just didn't know what to do.
What's worse is that paying 800 quid didn't guarantee Dominic a quality job.
This plate potentially could fall off, and then also this side lock here, the top screw is missing there, and the actual plate is loose.
I can't believe what I'm seeing.
As he paid via credit card, Dominic did have somewhere to turn to and complain, arguing he'd been ripped off. That complaint led to his card provider refunding over £500 to him as a gesture of goodwill. But I'm keen to see what an expert would make of his drilled out disaster. Lloyd Morgan has over 20 years experience in his locker.
So straight away we can tell by the size of the holes that this was done by an unskilled technician. We tend to call them drill smiths rather than locksmiths. They wouldn't have the tools to open this kind of lock. I mean, how difficult would it have been to pop down the road and get this key copied and had a genuine working key without having to do any of this damage?
Stefan George is the managing director of the Master Locksmiths Association. It wants the government to regulate the industry and force out rogue locksmiths.
Anybody can call themselves a locksmith, so we have an approved company scheme so that people know who they're going to use.
Stefan suggests acting now to be prepared.
Look for your local bona fide locksmith. We would suggest visiting locksmiths.co.uk, find the details of your locksmith and put them in your phone.
So I guess the advice would be, if you're in a situation where you can't get into your home and you need to, don't act on impulse, take a beat, think, and then call.
Absolutely, it could save you a lot of money.
You know, today has really made me think. It is inevitable. I will lose my keys and be locked out of my house one day. And when that happens, I want an expert like Lloyd to come to my aid, not some rogue. And the key to all of this is preparation.
Do you know, it's something I've never given much thought to about what happens if I get locked out, and I certainly will be now. Thank you for that.